find that the kind of writer that you are, what is your process of actually just stepping into that and just laying out these characters?
It's a lot of research. I take time. I think it's like why sometimes I'll tell people no to like something because I'm like, I'm gonna take some time with this. Hey, do you know that like you want to make a movie, but I want to tell a story? How are we gonna meet each other in the process that it's gonna take me to like really make this what it needs to be? Because I'm not chasing just putting it on screen. I'm chasing people feeling something.
Hello everyone, welcome to another existential episode of the Film Biz Show. Please subscribe, like, comment, and turn on the notification button so you are aware of our future episodes that you will love so much. Now today our guest is someone who lives, breathes, and exists storytelling. From years of consuming stories through novels and films, this filmmaker embarked on his writing journey in high school. Writing his first script, Drowning Innocence, to soaring through the multi-choice talent factory and writing and directing 3 made-for-TV films while on his internship. He was destined for greatness. And since then, he has opened his production house, Seamless Cut, with 2 co-owners. He has written for Takalani Sesame, the SABC, the NFEF, the KZN, FC, and MultiChoice. With his production company, he has written and co-written projects such as Dinaledi High School, Lament, My Mother Loves My Father, and That Makes Me Sad. Love the title. This is not a love story, and so many more. Of late, he's working on Seamless Cut's first feature film, Scammers Can't Wait, which he co-created and executive produced. Ladies and gentlemen, I am so excited to welcome Mazi. Welcome.
Hi.
How's it? How are you doing?
I'm good. I'm good. How are
Yeah,
you?
I'm very well. I love that you're quite mellow today, and yeah. Thank you for gracing us with your presence.
Thank you for having me. I'm a big fan of the show.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, we had a few weeks ago your partner Nomvuselelo come in, and she told us the story of how you guys got to put your company together, and I just thought to myself, this is a very brave, collective of black creatives. What was it that put that spark together, and what was it that let you know that this is actually the team that I want to create work with going forward?
I mean, I don't know. It feels very distant. It feels unforced. It feels like written in the stars kind of thing. Because we were put into like a team, not a Teams, a Zoom. What do they call it? Those like little breakaway rooms in like a session once, and it was just the 3 of us. And it was a funny like little exercise. We created a name for our trio called Two Geniuses and the Other Guy. And then, we laughed about it, moved on.
2 Jesuses and the other guy.
2 Geniuses and the Other Guy.
Oh, 2 geniuses and the other guy.
Yeah.
Okay.
The other guy was whoever was like slacking that week.
Okay.
I was the other guy a couple of times.
Okay.
But then we just spent a lot of late nights in the office together. Charlie and I would always be trying to write something. We were working on our first movie together at that point in time called Uzobuya, a movie I really love. And she would stay when we were developing other stories because we were about to leave the internship. It was time to think about like what the future would hold for us as separate people, but like potentially as a duo, me and Charlie. And then Nomsulelo joined our sessions. She'd come with story ideas. She's like hilarious.
Yeah.
Smartest woman I know. And yeah, she was a powerhouse producer already before coming to the internship. She was really on her way. And so it felt like a natural fit to bring her onto the team. I loved how she told stories because I love stories. I go wherever story is. And I love the stories that she wanted to tell. I love the stories Charlie wanted to tell. The stories I wanted to tell were still a little bit weird, but I thought, okay, I'd figure it out with the 2 of them. I think as people who are talented as they are, I would find how to tell my stories as well. And yeah, we became a collective after the internship, and it's been almost 4 years since.
Oh, congratulations. It doesn't usually happen that a collective of creatives are able to keep, cooperation going for, past 3 years, apparently it says. So well done. But, when you write stories, my question is like, what comes first? Is it the character? Is it the places? Is it the plot? How does it all kind of click in your head for you before you even get to the point where you manifest it through words when you're writing it?
I think it's different every time. Um, every story has its start, and I never like try to be prescriptive about it because it just makes it really harder to be creative. Feels like I'm just following beats of a formula. So I just start with the situation usually. I think all stories start like that, like a moment in time, what's going on here between these two people. And when you zoom into a situation, like details just become clearer, like who the characters are. They reveal themselves through every like little piece of the exchange. You start to see that, okay, they're in a bar. And then you realize, okay, this is a South African story. It's gonna like start like this. You get a sense of tone. I think a situation just paints a lot of things clear for you very quickly. It gives you character, it gives you world, it gives you tone because the way the characters talk will either lean you towards comedy or lean you towards like a slower drama or lean you towards something very periodic. Like sometimes I'll just write dialogue and then I'll realize it's like old English and I'm like, okay, so we're in 19 or something. Let's figure out what's going on here. But I think the best way I know that I'm working on a story is when I have a title. It's very dumb, but like if I don't know what it's called, it's just another idea, you know. It's
And
just
when does it
another.
come? When does it come?
It comes when it comes.
It just comes. So you could have a whole story in your head, and then the title is not there. Then it feels incomplete. It's
Yeah.
like,
If the title's not there, I'm just like, well, could have been nice. Because I'm just like, how am I gonna? Because when you tell someone you're working on a story, you can tell them like a log line. You know, people always pass around a log line, like, oh, this and this happens, and then da 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 da. But people only really remember what you're talking about when you tell them like, oh, it's called This Is Not a Love Story. And then when you talk about it again, they're like, oh yeah, what's going on with This Is Not a Love Story? You know, like now you know you have something that's like tangible. It's part of the conversation. So when I can like know that the story is called this, it gives me some sort of like guide to see it through firstly, but then it also like reveals other things like maybe like a controlling idea. For This Is Not a Love Story in particular, it was like, it wasn't a controlling idea really, but the title told me something about like how love can maybe feel like a hostage situation. And I was like, okay, This Is Not a Love Story is a great title. And it's gonna be about that in some shape or form. And now I can write. Like now I'm gonna be guided by those two principles, and whatever comes out needs to feel as true as it did when I heard that title in my head and thought, this is a story I want to tell. So it starts with a lot of things, a situation, but once that title is there, then I'm like, okay, I have a story.
yeah, it actually makes sense. I had a friend of mine who he does sound scoring, and I asked him what's the most difficult thing, and it's like it's actually naming the tracks. I was so surprised. It seems very trivial, right? But
Yeah.
naming the actual story that you're writing informs what exactly you're writing.
Yeah, it does.
But some people advise to say no, if you are inexperienced at writing or if you're experiencing writer's block,
Yeah.
which I wonder if you go through that. Apparently they say just
Very
take
real.
a pen and get a paper and just write.
Yeah.
Does that actually help?
I mean, I think it does. There's a book called The Artist's Way.
Yeah.
Very good book for like any writers like going through a dry spell or like just trying to figure out a new relationship with their
Any
creativity.
idea who the author is?
I think it's Julia Cameron.
Okay.
Yeah, Julia Cameron, The Artist's Way. She talks about how every morning when you wake up as a writer, you should just write on I think it's like 2 pages. Just stream of consciousness, just write what you want to work on as a storyteller will come out on those pages. You won't find it on the day you write that first day or the second day or whatever, but like it'll start becoming clearer what's bothering you, what's wrong with the world that you want to talk about. And for me, a lot of things bother me about the world we live in.
Oh, yeah.
And so I don't think I ever really have writer's block. It's always trying to figure out like, what's the best way to say this without saying that, like what's a good way to say I love you without saying I love you to someone? What's a tragic way that can be said? I'm always thinking about like, just what's a better way to tell a story we all have experienced in some shape or form, but we'll also all still find some sort of universal trait about it that like feels true. The truth is like what I'm chasing usually. So if you're chasing the truth, I think it's hard to like run out of story. Like there's so many injustices in the world. Everybody's going through something. And so if you look around you hard enough, there's always a story there. Um, that's my problem in the company. I'm usually always telling Charlie and Umusila, like, that's a story, we should work on that. And they're like, we're still working on those other 10, you said our stories too. But yeah, I'm chasing story.
I absolutely love that. And do you find that as a writer, when you look at your behavior, from a young child up into the person that you are, do you find that you prefer to be the fly on the wall whenever, there's a, social setting, or, are you more the observant type, the one who looks at, situations amongst people, words that are not being said, nuances that are not, being overtly, pronounced?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fly on the wall, definitely. I mean, I always felt like that, even growing up. Like, yeah, I was always just thinking, this is so funny. I wish someone could see this right now. Because I used to watch a lot of Disney, and that's part of the reason why I think writing was inevitable for me, because I'd watch the Disney shows and be like, that's not how my family does it. We don't get our conflict resolved in 30 minutes. It's gonna be a year problem. So, yeah, getting into situations in real life is always like me being like, "Ooh, this is gonna be a good story later." The last time it happened very recently, where like, because I'll be present in the moment, but then I'll also just be like in my head about it, being like, okay, interior night. Um, so it happened at a New Year's Eve party. I was just watching everybody and thinking, this is a really good premise, because I was with a friend and like there was a nice like setup to the story. Like, okay, we got to this party a little bit late. There's people we don't know. We're starting to meet them. The people don't really know us. We don't know them. How do we? And I thought, okay, this is an interesting setup for like a New Year's Eve story. Like, maybe I should work on that later this year. So whenever I'm in a situation, I'm always thinking like, what's the angle I can like write a story around this? Which I think also makes it very brutal to be alive, because I'm always like mining my life for story. So I could be like having like a really bad moment and like close to tears or even crying, and I'll be like, this is the hook of the show.
And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the reason why artists need help.
No, like for real. Like as soon as I saw that I was doing that in every part of my life, like a few years ago, I was like, okay, we need to stop. We need to live our life and like not mine it for story. But yeah, usually I'm just thinking like, this encounter, that line, why did that person move like that? What's the backstory behind something like that? Or like, who didn't come to the party and why? Who are they beefing with, and trying to figure out a backstory that is not true, but it's a fun game to play. And because I'm nervous a lot, I have like some high anxiety at times. That's how I like calm down in social situations, being like, okay, just pretend like you're just a researcher, you're fine. And then I'll start talking to people and realizing, okay, that's a really good life story. Maybe I need to like, steal a few parts for later. So no one's really safe when I'm around. No one's really safe.
Now we know. But as someone who deals with anxiety quite often in the day-to-day experience, how do you still yourself? How do you, get yourself to the point of stillness enough to be, to have enough silence and clarity to start your process of writing?
I don't know. It feels like a very hard task when it's time to do it, and it's strange. Well, not strange, but it's emphasized by the fact that our industry works on deadlines. So someone's like, "Please write this," and you can't be like, "Oh, I was still
Yeah.
trying to find my zen." They're like, "Where's the script?" They're like, "Where's the character arc? Like you said, it's gonna be better than this," and it's like I was still trying to get into that place where you're just like really hear story unravel in front of you. I write in a very weird way. I think it makes me a tougher writer to sell sometimes on paper in our like kind of like very simple writing style where like the action line is the basis of like just actions and stuff that the characters are doing, and then like the words are really what move the story along, right? I really put some time in those action lines because to me, your first audience is your reader. So my scripts are always just like I'm trying to always find a way to like get someone in the state of mind I was in when the scene was unraveling, what it feels like, not just for the character, but for the world of story, for the stakes that the story is going towards, and really for the viewer, like how it would feel like when a character says this line. Like sometimes in the action lines, I will write like, "Shit, everything stops." Even though like in the story, we're not gonna really see something like that, but it just feels like that's how it feels in the moment, and that's how the actor should feel when they read that thing, and how they would then find a way to play that kind of feeling, because that's how the audience is supposed to feel about it. So I'm always trying to just find a way to get into the writing by like really getting into the nitty-gritties, seeing the things that are in the scene. I mean, film is and television itself is a very collaborative medium. People come in, your art director comes in, adds something. The director will add the way this will be visualized. Wardrobe will add elements to speak of the character in the costuming. But you want to make sure everybody has like something to chew on when they read the script. You don't want to just be like, he wears a black hoodie. That's he does wear a black hoodie, but like, what does the hoodie say? Is there like some writing on it? Is it torn? Why is it torn? Are we gonna get into that? Is it messy? What does that say about the character? I'm always trying to find those nitty gritties, and to be that still is quite an exercise. But I mean, what I've always said to like Charlie whenever we're writing, and he's sometimes asks me like, okay, how how do you get into that zone? I suppose. To me, I just feel like stories save lives. Writing has saved my life so many times. Like just stepping out of my shoes to like find a situation that feels like something I've gone through, but like it's totally someone else's, and like how do you make that make sense? I'm always trying to make sense of the events that happen to us because it feels like life doesn't really have a narrative structure. Sometimes things happen and you find out years later why that happened. And in the stories I'm always trying to tell, I'm trying to make sense of those weird events, like when a parent just dies, or when time just stops for real. And I'm working on a short called Time Traveling While Black.
For real.
Yeah, and it's just
I love time travel. Oh, I love time travel stories. So
really
if you're looking for an actor to cast, I'm just saying I'm here.
okay.
Yeah. Anyway.
But yeah, I mean, just getting into that stillness is a lot. I just think it's like just coming to serve something else. It's like a character. You know why they are the way that they are. You know what they're struggling with, what they're chasing, and it's like you're trying to give them that, but you're also trying to make them learn a lesson. They say a character has a want, a flaw, and a need. The flaw is the problem you're trying to solve, but the need is really what you're trying to get to. And so it's always about serving the character, which is why I think the development of characters needs to be like a really longer process. I think people like cheat it, where they're just kind of like, okay, want, need, flaw, we know who they are, and it's like, no, but like, what did happen to them when they were 3, and like, why is that kind of like a little clue to why they're the way that they are now. So really like trying to serve this person because they feel like people to me, these characters. I remember them all. I wish them really great happy endings, and sometimes I can't give them that. And it's like learning how to stay true to what they would need to be the people that they need to be past the film you're telling, because the film is just a part of a character's life, and then or the TV show episode is like just part of that character's life, but then they have a life outside of the things we see, and it's like, why are we seeing what we're seeing? And it's being true to the character.
You feel as if we have, we kind of at times overlook the process of building these characters in the world outside of just what we are seeing as an audience, and we just rush to the end point, right? The result. That's what we want, isn't it? Like, I
We
have a
really
story.
we just want to see them being who we like to see them as, like, and I think it's why I think it's so cool that film and television is so collaborative, because then an actor comes in and you've laid out a scene like this, and you've planted all the things that have been going on with this character over a couple of pages or whatever, and the actor will come in and be like, you know, they wouldn't cry here, but they would punch this wall. And it becomes a revelation to you as the writer as well, to think about, okay, damn, like they would punch that wall because emotion is something they're always scared of. Why are they scared of it? That's a future episode. You start figuring out things because actors are doing them in a specific way. And I think, which is why I think writers being on set is also so important, because when you start to see that the actor you brought onto the project is like really operating on a certain kind of level, you wanna meet them there and like give them more to play with and like push them, because it's not just coming to set and reciting the lines that someone wrote. It's giving them life and like trying to bring to light the issue that the writer was talking about, like, because it's not just about the joke or like the crime that's being committed. It's about this kind of character, which is why like I think TV is so cool, because you look at something like The River and you look at Lindywe's character arc. It's insane.
Yeah, it is.
And that's beautiful.
It's wonderful. It really is wonderful. I guess it also does depend on the kind of writer that you are as well. How you place these characters and what you play with. Do you find that the kind of writer that you are, what is your process of actually just stepping into that and just laying out these characters?
It's a lot of research. I take time. I think it's like why sometimes I'll tell people no to like something, because I'm like, I'm gonna take some time with this. Hey, do you know that you want to make a movie, but I want to tell a story? Or how are we gonna meet each other in the process that it's gonna take me to like really make this what it needs to be? Because I'm not chasing just putting it on screen. I'm chasing people feeling something. TV and film for me really raised me in ways that I think made me who I am. I understood things a lot easier because I saw it in stories. Finding Nemo taught me a lot about life, as much as it's an animation. And so I want that same thing when someone watches a story that I've written. I don't want them to be thinking, oh, where are the nuances? Like, this is just, we've seen this, because that's a lot of like, I think people's reaction sometimes to things is like, oh, it's like that story. And it's like, no, but it might have similarities, but like sit down with it, like see what I've offered. And so my process is very lengthy. It's a lot of research, a lot of thinking about like who this person is. Firstly, like developing this character to like a way that they feel like someone enough that I don't have to think about like if they would say something or not. Like I just know that this is how they would say it. And knowing when like you've written something that a character wouldn't say is a very good way to get your story to the finish line quicker but more authentically, where it doesn't feel like you're just telling a story that anybody could have told. It does feel like a very specific story because you've added nuances of the language of this time, or you've added location elements in the dialogue that make it feel like, oh yeah, we are in the township, So I think my process is just really trying to like really be in the world that I'm writing about. Really understanding what I'm saying is a huge part. Like I have a couple of script editors that I work with, and it's always interesting to check in with them because I'm always figuring out like when I'm telling them where I am with the story now, I'm figuring out like what I don't have a grasp on. And it's interesting because you think you know everything about a story once you've developed the character, you know what the beats are, because you do like I think it's called a major turning point document, which like really takes you down a journey of the beats of like a hero's journey, in the way that your character would go through it, and so you do all of that and you think I know the story, but then you write a draft and you read it after some time. I really step away also from a draft, which is what takes long about the process because I need some time to be like, okay, I wrote it, cool. Getting some feedback back, I'm calling Nomvuselo being like, hey, just finish this little feature, tell me what you think. And then people come back to you and they tell you things, hopefully they sing in your praises, which is really the case for me. People are like, you have to go back. It's not good enough. And I'm like, okay, I'm gonna get back in there. And then I step back and I see the flaws for what they are. And I think part of also that rewriting process, because it is a really extensive part of writing as well, rewriting, is when people tell you what's wrong with the story, because I think people just take a lot of things. They're like, oh, someone said I should add an explosion. Explosion it is. Yeah. No. I think the way you should deal with notes is always like, listen to what people say the problem is, but not what they tell you to do about it. Because everybody has ideas, everybody's the next writer, there's a lot of backseat writers who are like, hey, no, this is how I think it should go. And you're like, do you know the character? They wouldn't do this.
Yeah. So listen to the problem, but not their solution.
Not their solution. Because the problem will tell you where the script is disconnecting with someone who reads it. And that's a good thing to know because then you start to figure out that, okay, there's too much dialogue around that point in the story. And like, actually, we should just keep moving, keep accelerating to the point of no return. And then we can have like a little dialogue moment again. Or it tells you like, okay, the character is doing too much right now. We need to humble him. It's time for him to really come to terms with what the real problem is. Because at this point in the story, people are still wondering like, okay, where's this going? It tells you that, okay, you need to go back and accelerate the problem, heighten the stakes maybe, or maybe make the world more interactive enough to signal that there's a real problem that the hero should solve. So I think the process is just, it's me driving myself crazy most of the time, honestly. I will put up all these sticky notes and be like, okay, then this happens and then that happens, and it'll look like an investigation, boardroom scene and from a detective show. But it'll really be me figuring out like, okay, what's the next beat though? Like, because I said it was this, but it's not that, is it? So it's like it's a long process. It's sometimes really painful. Which is why you need to fall in love with your story at the beginning, I think, and which is why I hold on to things like a title. Because I'm like, if it's called This Is Not a Love Story, it's gotta be great. So I can't just drop this project right now and see it to the end. Or if you have like a really great character, you're like, damn, where does Lesedi end up? I need to finish that. So you need to find a way to like really invest yourself to the story, not just for money, because I mean, yeah, someone's gonna pay you, and if you're just doing it for the money, it just you end up losing that like feeling of feeling like you actually told a story, of feeling like you actually did something that's potentially great, that will potentially like touch the minds of people. So yeah, the process is just long, honestly. I
always find people like you very fascinating who don't do stuff for money. I'm like, hey, I wish I had that luxury.
Okay, no, wait, no.
Like, oh no, I don't care about the money. Hey. Yeah, no. Eh?
No, look, I care about the money. I really, really do. Because I make indies. Yeah. And so I need the money to make the things that people don't want to give me money to make. So I do need the money, but it's also like, it feels... I always say that writing feels like my purpose.
I love that.
It feels like my purpose because sometimes I'll know like that project is not what I'm supposed to be doing right now, because it's just not, it's not what I'm going through. It's not what I think I can say something about. You need to also know when you're chasing a story because everybody's talking about, Thabo Bester, and you're like, okay, I'm gonna write a movie about. you need to realize that you're telling a story for something like deeper than just what's going on in the culture. It has to be bigger than just audience ratings as well, because you do want to entertain. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, your funders are gonna ask you like, why should we make this? And you need to sell it not just on the idea and the like the deep thoughts about like what this film is gonna do. You need to sell it on just like entertainment value too. And so I think money is very like essential. Like, please pay writers. I think, we also do get underpaid, but
Yeah.
like writers are really also just solving stuff going on within them, I feel. Well, that's how I do it. Like, when I'm writing a story, it's usually something that's really important to me on just like a deeper level than just like genre or the character. It's like the issues in the story are like really important to me, and I make a lot of decisions on like what would little me think about me making something like this, because he loved TV and he was going to watch anything, but would he watch this thing that I'm writing? And sometimes it's like, should he watch it? Because then it's like a little bit too, dark and twisted. And I'm like, no, okay, it's not for little me, but he would appreciate it when he gets older. So yeah.
I love that, man. And I mean, I know it's hard to pick favorites, because scripts must feel like your babies, and but do you have a favorite script that you've written? And what about that actual specific process is it that you loved?
I mean, this is a very politically correct answer, but it's always like, it's what I said about when I was a kid, and because I used to read a lot. When someone used to ask me like, "What's your favorite book?" it would always be what I last read, because that's like that was the best
Still
thing,
fresh.
It was always the next. So it's my favorite script is always the one I'm working on next.
Okay.
And right now I'm working on a couple, but and some are for like other people. Whenever it's for other people, it's very hard to like say that it's the favorite, because it's also like someone else's story, and like, there's a respect thing about like creating for someone else. Like, it's collaboration on a different level, and you need to serve more than just what you want to make. It's something that someone else also wanted to say. So it's different when I'm thinking about those kind of stories, people that I'm working with. I'm working on a couple of things, but something that I'm working on right now that I really, really love is called Broken People. And the process for that, why I really like love writing that script, is because it just feels so freeing. I'm writing a character that can say anything. He will say anything, and he does not care about the consequences. He is a hot mess. He's a hot mess, and he's fun to write, So I'm really enjoying like just not thinking about how I would treat some situations. I mean, whenever you think about a character, there's always like a moral code they have on some sort of level. His is corrupt. He will do anything. And so I'm just loving following him down this like dark and twisted path, actually. But I think he's someone that I think the audience is gonna love to hear from. He speaks to the camera, so that's really fun. But yeah, that project is really cool for me, because also it's a mental health story.
Okay.
And it's just, I think it's something we need to talk about right now.
Definitely.
The tagline for it is like, what is it? You write these things down and you forget them so quickly. Existence is a prison is the tagline for the show. And I think, yeah, we have to talk about that.
We have to.
We have to talk about these things we say don't have names in our mother tongues, but like are just plaguing us. And I think they're not new. We love to pretend like it's just something the Gen Z generation is dealing with, but it's something that's always been there. Depression in the Black community. I started writing about that kind of stuff while I was still at AFTA. And it's just, I think, why I'm really loving working on it, because I started working on it back then, really, actually. It was supposed to be a longer film, but how it's grown over time has really been interesting. When you write stories about mental health and the responsibility you have to like serving issues, feels very scary, and you think you have to say this and do that, and you can't, 13 Reasons Why shocked the globe, and so you have to think about, oh, what can I do, because that stirred people the wrong way. But then you also have to think about like this character, what are they going to do? They're not thinking about an audience is watching me. They're thinking, this is my life, this is how I'd react. tell the truth. And so I'm telling the truth in that story, and it feels very freeing, scary, worried about what people are going to say about it. But that's the mark of a good idea, like something that you really feel nervous about sharing. Because, yeah, we're right to be read. And if you feel confident enough in your idea and you do it the justice it deserves, it does get out there.
I like what you say when you talk about, some of these things that we don't have names of in our, indigenous languages, but we keep dealing with the effects. And funny, I was talking to a good friend of mine during the course of the week, and he was telling me about a great grandfather of his who had committed suicide. And that's something you'd never hear about, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like, black people, I never thought suicide was a thing until recently within our community. But, very clearly people have been killing themselves in the 50s and the 60s, due to depression. So I'm very happy that you are tackling these very difficult conversations, especially, with regards to mental health.
I mean, how could you not? I feel like I just think that it's just very real. Like it's everywhere. Everybody's going through a lot, And I think COVID accelerated some of people's like walls to like these issues. COVID like made you look at yourself, and a lot of people just didn't like what they saw, and it's been something that's been plaguing artists for a long time. And I mean, I don't know how we run away from it, because essentially being an artist is also dealing with like these heavy existential things that we have to live with, making sense, forging meaning of events in our lives. And all my favorite writers like are dead, and it's like, oof, am I gonna end up there? Who
What do you
knows?
think it is? What is it that puts the artist in that position to be so vulnerable to the frequencies that are around them? Because I just feel as if artists have a capacity to feel a bit more. You know,
I mean, I agree. I definitely agree. I think it's because we have to look at everything that happens in life and like try to either mirror it, reflect it, make sense of it through our art. And so there's a lot of pressure for every moment to make sense, to have meaning. We document every moment now, like with our phones and tweets and stories and WhatsApp statuses, like. And so we all want to feel like we matter, we belong, we've made a mark. And artistry is like taking everything that everybody else is like sweeping under the carpet and like taking it out, being like, damn, this is ugly, and being like, what do we do about this? I think I've never really tried to pose answers to problems in anything that I've ever written. I'm always just being like, look, this happens, that happens, and that
interpret
happens.
it.
Hey, what do we do about this? I mean, films are, to me, conversations, because films are a debate. There's a idea you start a film with, and you're fighting it throughout the film to figure out what is true, what is the lie that we've believed as a society, and what is the truth we need to learn. And the truth the character learns is not always the truth that society needs to take into itself and replicate, but it's a mirror. And I think artists are always having to mirror our times, and our times are not always pretty. So yeah, it's a pressure.
Yeah, you get a sense. I mean, everyone, people who are working in different sectors, we all just trying to make sense of the times we're living in. So much is changing. There's so much pressure upon us. There's so many distractions.
Yeah.
From the minute we wake up, we are consuming impressions. We're consuming the phone and brands and ideas of who and what we should be. And as someone who's obviously as a writer, do you sometimes get that sense that you need to break away from all the madness?
Yeah. Like, it's not for me. I am not. I mean, I live in somewhat the city. Like, I'm always in the city for work reasons. It's not where I'm at peace. It's not where I'm at, like, at home, calm, and with myself. Like, It's but I can write anyway. I write everywhere. I used to write on the bus. I used to write at like family gatherings, um, but yeah, I want to just go away in the mountains somewhere, cabin in the woods vibes. And look, I'm not saying that I can sustain that life. Like I probably will be killed by like some spider, but
I was
I will enjoy my
imagining
time
a
until I
bear.
go. I will be at peace until I go. I'll go peacefully. And I think that's like the city there's a lot going on here. Everybody's going through something. And like, I feel like it transfers a lot to people. Like, we don't realize how much affects us about the lives we're living until like, you go to therapy and you're like unpacking it all and you're like, oh, like this is very toxic. I should like change this or whatever. You don't realize that the city is like, strangling you with all its like fast pacedness and like, its deadlines. Its culture sometimes can get very toxic. Everybody's like, it's a very competitive business as well. But I just think, if anything, I wouldn't say I'm never intimidated by other writers. There are some really great writers in our industry, and some of us are just trying to do our best to get in there. But I'm jealous a lot, and I'm happy when I'm jealous of like other writers because I'm like, damn, I can tell this kind of story too, like in a different way. And like, it's just when a writer gets to do what they do, it's a seat at the table for another writer to do what they do. Especially when it's voice work, like stuff that feels like this is the writer saying something about our times in the way they would say it. Like if it's in a comedy format or if it's in a drama format or dramedy or whatever. I think that it's a very tricky business, but I feel like there can be a seat at the table for all these different kind of writers, and it's stuff I try to cultivate myself also with other writers because I know quite a few, and I used to run this like little Friday club called the Writers Table, and writers would just come with a piece of work they have, and we would just read and talk about it. Figure out like, is this something our time needs right now? Like, how can we help you? What are your questions? Is it communicating this or whatever? And it's something I definitely want to bring back and do on a larger scale. Bring in actors, bring in cinematographers to really talk about story because I think sometimes in the big business of of entertainment, we forget that we really are just telling stories,
Yeah.
On the Uber here, the driver that I got was someone who wants to be a writer, and he was telling me a story he wants to work on, and I was thinking, damn, I'm a writer. I'm like the person people are like, yo, I want to do that thing that you tell a little story. That's a big responsibility. But I mean, I'm just doing my best.
Love it, and you're doing great. I mean, your job is to look at the world, make your own sort of like assertion of the world around you, and essentially you articulate the events that happen in life, and obviously you put scenarios that would be interesting enough for an audience to consume. But you deal a lot with life and circumstances that surround different events in life. What is your reconciliation with death?
It's funny you say that because I am like broken people is partly life, partly death, partly what that means. Um, it was based on an idea about like euthanasia, which is essentially like assisted suicide, which is a very controversial thing. It's illegal here in the country. It's legal in other parts in the world. And for me, what I'm tackling with now with death is like, shouldn't you have, shouldn't you be able to play a part in like how you die?
Yeah.
And if you should, what does that mean? Should you have that power when something bad is going on in your life? Because I mean, sometimes life is really getting you down, and like having the choice to end it shouldn't always be something that is given to you at any moment in time. There's a really big responsibility about that. But who knows what lies on the other side of life? I think I'm always toying with the idea of like, death not being an end. It's something else. I'm not sure what it is, but it's scary. We all know that it's very scary, but it's difficult. It's difficult to lose someone and really have perspective on it so completely, to like just be like, oh, there's a reason this happened, and I'm fine. It's not that simple, and so I think death is really complicated because no one living can completely explain what it's like. And we hear stories of people that are like, oh, I died for 7 minutes and I came back, and this is
I
like,
heard about that. I mean, I see a lot of those NDEs.
yeah,
Yeah, those
and you're like,
videos.
is that true though?
Yeah.
Like, come on, you can tell us the
Yeah.
truth. You didn't see anything. It was blank. But I mean, who's to say what's on the other side? And that's what storytelling is all about. Because actually, one of the films I made with Nombuselelo, our like first film together, Guyafiwa, Ezulwini, was about that. Like, when you go to heaven, like, how do they decide whether you stay or whether you go to
Comedy.
hell? Yeah, it was a comedy. And that's fun. Like, so writing just gives us a chance to explore what that may be like. We don't
Yeah.
know. But I think I'm scared of it personally. Like I have a lot of unfinished business. There's a lot I want to say before my time is done. But you think of great writers like K. Silodeka, who wrote The Quiet Violence of Dreams. Yeah, like he left us too soon. Great writer. That book is a revelation that I reread all the time. And he said a lot in there about like because I think when we're busy being alive, we forget that we can also be busy feeling dead. And so I think we know what deadness can feel like, but we don't know what it's like to not be able to come away from it. So like, because they say that you should look at darkness but not stare. So we don't know what it's like to stare when there's like nothing else to see but this one reality of you no longer being. But I mean, those are questions all the great writers were toying with, and I can only hope to be at that table one day as well.
Definitely you will. I mean, it makes you question what a brilliant soul like Ricky Rick was going through when he took his life.
Double HP.
Double HP. Jabba was a giant to many, and it seems like it's happening more and more often where you find, especially black males. We're not saying, other people and sexes and races aren't doing the same, but it seems like there's a rise in the suicide rate of black males. And you ask yourself a lot of questions as to like, what is it that breaks this particular, sect of people, breaks them so much that they decide that, look, I can't continue on this road.
I mean, I think there's a lot of pressure to people in general. Like I think the statistics are showing that it is males more, black males. But I think I always say that I am my ancestors' wildest dreams. I heard that somewhere. I think Ava DuVernay said that, and like it's a whole movement. But I think I am, because essentially a lot of the things I'm experiencing, a lot of the opportunities I have, a lot of the pressures I have, they're all things that people before me didn't get to experience. And, I mean, I struggle with a lot of issues. I'm as flawed as any other person. It's why I write,
That's it.
But essentially, it's like we're all just fighting to leave some sort of legacy behind, to make sense of like what our lives should have meant, because we don't know. I say my purpose is writing, but it's me forging meaning, because I'm like, when I write, I really feel like I'm. It's not about me, it's not about the awards if they're gonna come. It's not about am I gonna make money. It's just me and this character and the story and this feeling and this truth I want to say, that is about me, is not about me, is about everybody, is about nobody. And so there's a lot of pressure to succeed and for your life to mean something. And I think it's devastating that we can't have conversations about that pressure sometimes, because I mean, I do understand what it's like to also, on both sides, to be the person hearing someone like really pouring their heart out to you, but to also be like the open wound at a party, to be like, what's the point of what we're doing though? And people are like, we're here to have a good time, like, hey, did you see that person over there? And I'm like, yeah, but what's his point too? It's hard to constantly be present enough to know that your life has vitality and meaning and purpose and value, but to also be contending with all the issues that we're contending with in our times. People have a lot of problems, and not everybody wants to listen. Therapy is expensive, unfortunately. But you have to find your outlet. For me, it was writing. Some people, it's music. I actually did want to be a musician when it all began. This is a detour. And, God dealt me the wrong vocal cords, unfortunately. But, I was like, okay, I can't sing the words, but I can write something. And so, yeah, I think just finding a reason to why you're here makes it easy when you wake up starting from zero. You're like, okay, I'm here to do this. Let's try to do that thing. And I think when you're doing the thing that you feels like you're supposed to be doing to your life, there's just some sort of like balance in the chaos. Like, you could almost die, like a car could almost hit you, and you're still like, okay, but hey, I was writing that story, or I was gonna make that song, or I was gonna make that movie. It's just, or even out of that, like some people are not in the creative space like that. They're working some really serious jobs that I couldn't do, but we need them too. And so, I think if what you do is your purpose, yeah, you're fighting half the battle.
That's so true. In a very confusing world. Yeah, that's so true. But looking ahead, what are some of your goals and your aspirations and wishes as a storyteller? And how do you envision your role in shaping the future of storytelling, both within South Africa, within the world that we're living in? Yeah,
I mean, I just want to tell stories.
yeah.
Like, just give me money, guys. I just want to make movies. That's all I want to do. Every day I'm just like, oh, we could make this story. I just want to tell stories. That's my goal, to just keep telling the next story. And I have so many, and some of them I know people are gonna be like, you can't give me money to make that.
That's weird.
That's too dark. That's like whatever. But I just, and which is why I make indies now. It's just a way to tell the stories I want to tell in my own way. It's not about the money. It's not about, you know, trying to further my career too much. It's just about like telling a story that I think should be told. And I hope that I can be someone that people can call and be like, hey, I was thinking about this idea, and I'm the guy you call to make it, to be like, okay, I'm gonna get you on a Zoom and we're gonna do this, and we're gonna do this, and we're gonna start breaking down the story and we're gonna make it. I wanna be someone filmmakers can call to talk about their story and figure out what's the best way to do it. And maybe I'm part of the writing team, or I'm some part of it, because I wanna help people tell the stories they wanna tell too, because my stories, I have my reasons why I'm telling these stories and why I wouldn't tell different stories from what I do tell, like why they are dark, why they are a little twisted sometimes, because those are things I see that people don't really talk about. And so I want to be someone that like future filmmakers can call to be like, yo, I want to make this quick little short film. And like, I'm like, okay, cool. Let's talk about the story. I think we can shoot here. I know someone who can shoot this. And, there's some really great creative collaborators in the industry right now, some really young people doing the most, with an eye for visual frames, with the mind for sharp dialogue. And so I just want to be someone who can help people make the stories they want to make. And, if I get to make these stories through seamless cut, that's a win for me. Seamless Cut is my legacy. Doesn't seem like much yet, but it's gonna be something really big when I've told all the stories I want to tell with my creative partners, Nomvuselo and Charlie, and we have like little branches open up in the company that I can do different things, to do some indies and then do some like development stuff. So I want to keep being in the story table and like just throwing more ideas in, pitching more things, working with other writers. I'm always trying to collaborate. I think collaboration is artistry at its finest because it's like minds coming together to tell a story with nuances that one mind couldn't conjure. And when there's two minds in a story, like you already know, like there's some juicy stuff coming your way. So I'd love to work with anybody who wants to tell a really good story, who wants to make people feel something, whether it be a short, whether it be an indie, whether it be a television show, whether it be a movie. I'll do it. I'll do it.
Absolutely love it. Absolutely love it. You know, I mean, not too long ago you were interning
Yeah.
Talent Factory, and here you are today, having made your first feature, written films. I've done a lot of stuff in a short space of time, but I'm sure you've gone through moments of questioning your ability, your reason for doing this. What advice would you give the younger Mazi, the younger version of you, now that you're here?
That's such a tricky question because it's like, I'm writing a time travel story, like I said. And
yeah.
when you go back and you do something, it changes everything that comes afterwards because like now the past is not the past anymore, but it's the future. It was the present and you go into your future. So, I mean,
it's a very complicated mathematical,
what do you say to yourself that doesn't mess things up, but like, does just the right thing? But what would I tell myself? What would I tell an intern who's just starting out, trying to like start their career? It's tricky. It's tricky. You have to work really hard. I worked really hard to get to where I am, and it's not like I'm not at the top of my game. Like there's some really, honestly, fantastic writers out there that I'm just like, ooh, can't wait to make an offering that's gonna feel like on Portia's level. You know what I mean? But I think like take your own time.
Yeah, man.
Take your own time. It's a marathon. It's really not like, like a little sprint race and you get to the finish line and you're like, woo, It's not that tangible and not that simple and not that finite because because when you do finally make your first like little short film, you're thinking, I want to make a feature. When you make a feature, you're like thinking, oh, a TV show would be great. When you make a TV show, you're like, what about a trilogy? And then when you make a trilogy, you're like, I want to do something art house. There's always a new thing you're chasing. But I think the thing is like take your time, really take your time, because you'll burn out. You will burn out. I burnt out and it wasn't pretty. I burnt out my burnout.
Yo.
So
you were out.
That was not cool. That was not cool. And so also the other thing is like you are chasing a career at the time, you're thinking, this opportunity is going to work out. That opportunity is going to work out. You're doing everything at like the highest possible level that you need to also like just stop for a second and be like, okay, I was on my first set and I did this and this was great. That was bad. I learned this. Okay, on to the next one. Like really take stock of like what's happening because you wake up a couple years later not remembering that you wanted to be a writer or you wanted to be a DOP and you're just thinking, I'm in the game, I'm in the business, but like you're not really thinking like you have the thing you were chasing. Yesterday's dream is so easily forgotten when you finally have it and it feels like, I've done it all. What can I do? But you've never really truly done it all. And like, just be super interested in everybody that comes your way. I can't say that everybody I've talked to in my life has changed my life in miraculous ways. But they've made me understand what I do a little bit better. I think you really know what you do, like as a person, like what your business is on earth, when you know how you tell someone how you spend your time. You know, when you answer that question, like they're like, okay, what do you do for fun? And if part of like what you do as your purpose is in that answer, then you're in the right place, you know. So take your time. Yeah, the milestones will come. You'll enjoy all these great moments in your career, but like you will never completely remember the vibe of like having to drive all that distance to set. Again, because now you have a crew bus and you forget about that struggle of getting to set and like the energy you would feel listening to music, pumping yourself up. Like you want to remember all the nuances that took you to get to where you are, and you want to remember all the people that got you to where you are. To look back every now and then and be like, hey, you know, my mentor from the academy, Bobby Heaney, every now and then we meet up with him, you know, Mselo and Charlie, and we just tell him what we're up to or what our lives are like. And it's always such a like a whoosah moment, because you forget how much you've done in a year. When you're telling your mentor, or you're telling the people that you love that are closest to you what you've been doing, you start to realize like, oh damn, like I was a little bit busy this year, not bad. Or like I didn't achieve everything I wanted to achieve, but damn, I did that thing that I told them I was gonna do back in 2000 and whatever. I did it, you know. So it's good to look back at the little struggle of getting to where you're going. So be present in your journey in the industry, like, and just don't forget the people that got you to where you are. Say thank you, because it's not easy to get in. It's honestly really not. Everybody's talented. Everybody's talented that's in the industry. It's a small industry, but everybody's good at what they do. And so getting in there is like, you're really getting into Olympics. And so it's like you try to climb that ladder, and it's difficult, but it's possible. It's possible. And I'm, like I said, I'm not there yet. I'm still very much on my way, but wow, I've done some little things, and isn't that so cool?
Yeah, I feel like your advice to yourself really hits home to one, you know, because we get so stuck up in the daily mundane tasks that you have to achieve. And once you achieve something, it's like, okay, cool, back. What else can we get? And that comes, and you're like, okay, let's put that at the back, you know, and you never really take stock of what you've been able to do. So I take my hat off for you, to you for that. The next, now we're at the point where we get to the game segment of our show.
I hate losing.
No, don't worry. There's no winning or losing.
Okay, great.
Your only competition. But the name of this game is called Fill in the Blanks. Basically, I give you an incomplete statement and you complete it however way you want. We just want to see how your creative mind works. And, you know, there's no wrong or right answers. Don't worry. So here we go. My ultimate dream collaboration would be with...
It's not a person, I would say, but like 2 companies. Definitely would love to do something with Chedza, you know.
Oh, yeah.
They're amazing. But also something with Quizzical Pictures. Some really, they make some really great content over there. So yeah, those 2.
Love it. If I went in the film industry, I'd probably be...
Psychology.
Okay. Yeah, they go very well, hand in hand. Very much so. The understanding of human psyche, right?
Yeah.
One film that significantly impacted my approach to storytelling is...
So many, but the film that like I feel like changed my life, like after I watched it, I was like, whoa, you know, is a film called wow.
I think I know it. Wow. Who directed it?
It's a classic, eh? Wait, what is it called? The Perks of Being a... Okay, there we go. It's called The Perks of Being a Wallflower.
A wallflower.
Yeah.
Okay.
Beautiful film.
Sounds like an indie art house kind of.
Yeah,
vibe.
it feels it seems like that, but it's just it's like your typical coming of age story, but like
Okay.
with so much heart. I love the genre coming of age. I
Okay.
haven't really made an entry into that genre yet, but I think it's a genre for an audience because it's about a character growing up and learning something about themselves. It's like a traditional story essentially. But that film was beautiful. It taught me the quote, we accept the love we think we deserve.
Sure.
And that's true.
Sure. That hits home. Really does hit home. The most rewarding part of mentoring emerging filmmakers is?
Being jealous. I love being jealous of people. It's my pastime. And not in a toxic way. Like, honestly, like some people's jealousy gets a bit crazy, but I'm inspired. For me, being jealous means that I'm being inspired. And I love when I read something from someone who's, getting into the game and is becoming a contributor to the industry. I love it when I read something that makes me go, oh, I need to write. I wasn't writing like this before. Like I need to get to this level of this kind of piece, and then trying to do my take on not what they've done, but just like of that kind of truth. I love when I read a script and I think, I wish I wrote that. And if something makes me say I wish I wrote that, I'm like, yeah, the industry's in great hands.
I love that. I love how you accept, because as much as a lot of texts would shun down jealousy, and I know there's a very negative side to it, but it's also a very human trait.
Yeah,
it is. It's the truth. When I see a friend of mine doing extremely well, part of me feels like, who's that person?
yeah.
And you know what it does? It makes me ask myself, what can I do to improve myself that I can be on that level?
Exactly.
Yeah.
I'm like, there's nothing like reading a line in the script that you think like, ooh, nasty.
Yeah.
Like nasty. How did they come up with this? I love that. So
I like that.
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, when crafting a character, I prioritize
need. Because it's so easy to find flaws. We're all flawed. So easy to figure out a goal, what this character could want. Like you can always like substitute it, but in a perfect world, the goal should be so clear that like you can't even put something else. Like this is just what they would want as a character. But the need, like, because I always think of the ingredients of character as like they want this, their problem is this flaw because they need this. And when you figure out what a need is, it's like you're just solving a character flaw almost. And I think it's like sometimes a guide to how audience members like digest what's going on in their life. You look at a show and then there's a line in there and suddenly you're like, oh, that's what I was going through, and this is what can be comforting to me now that I've known that maybe because I was going through all this grief, what I needed to do is like talk to someone about it, and like there's like little things in character journeys, but usually at the end of it that like really just inspire you as well. Like most of the times I'm learning from the characters because I'm like them in a lot of ways. I'm like, oh yeah, I'm flawed like this. I would do that. I wouldn't do that, but I would do it like that. And when you get a character to a place where they like really arc and they're a fully developed person, fully cooked, as I say, you can take something from that. And so the need I prioritize a lot because it seems like something really easy to answer. Like if someone is a kleptomaniac, what they need is to learn that, everything, there's no level of evil, everything's a crime, but that's like such a base answer. So it's like trying to find the deeper need of like, why do they steal? It's because they never had things before. Why did they never have things? And then you start to find like this really insightful answer to like a problem that might be irking people that you know, or like just like that's happening in the zeitgeist. And so when I find a need and I like it's really solid, I feel like I have a character.
Wonderful. My favorite filmmaking memory involves.
Favorite. I am only thinking about the worst ones. We do that. My favorite filmmaking memory. Yeah, that's why is that stumping me? I think this is not specific, and I'm answering very generally because I might take too long. But it's hearing the words you wrote at like 3 a.m. on some dingy Sunday night, or in some dingy Uber on the way back home. Hearing those words articulated with the exact amount of emotion you wrote them with being performed, and moving actors, because I mean they're acting their emotion, but to you it's finally realized, and there's nothing like watching what you worked endlessly on come to life. Like it's unbelievable. I can't describe what that feeling feels like, you know, watching actors bring something to life in the way that you imagine them to be able to do it to, but then superseding your expectations and like just making you want to cry and like be like, oh, that's what I was writing about, you know. Seeing your words come to life is really something else. And yeah, experiencing that for the first time when I was in high school was like life-changing, and I just wanted to do that over and over again in different ways and hoping to say different things. But when I see someone like really perform some random sentence or some random joke and like with the right delivery, the right emotion, it just feels, I don't know, like otherworldly. Yeah, it's magical.
Love it. Now, we've got this mini segment called Put Them On, right? Essentially, we're basically highlighting an upcoming filmmaker in whatever capacity, you know, that you think that we should check out, and, you know, anyone within the ecosystem that you feel, this one, you should definitely be on the lookout for.
Well, I would say it's everybody that I'm like surrounded by, the people that I'm working with right now. I'm working with a really cool young producer from Bloemfontein on the time travel film. His name's Kopano Mutsekwa.
I know Kopano very well.
Like awesome guy.
Didn't you submit for DFM?
Yes, and we finished recently.
Yeah.
We're going to the Durban Film Mart in June, July. Just
Funny.
to go see and, you know.
So you wait, are you sorry?
No.
So wait, you guys, so you co-developing the story
Yes.
with him?
Yeah. But I was brought on, you know, like I wasn't there from the get-go.
Okay.
But then I came in, you know, and he's been such a great collaborator because you know, I always warn producers when they bring me on as a writer, like, I might just make a mess up in here, but like it's gonna make sense. Don't worry. And he has been.
Can I tell you the
gracious.
weirdest thing?
Yeah.
The weirdest thing is that I met Kopano at DFM last year.
Yes.
You know, we were just talking, and afterwards we got in touch, and he sends me this great pitch deck about a time travel film, and he asked me to be a part of it.
Yeah.
So here I am asking you to cast me.
I was like, I don't know if I should like
This is so weird.
plant that. I was like,
Okay, this is so weird. Okay.
I was like, yeah. I was like, yeah. Don't you know? Like,
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
we are pursuing you.
Oh, okay. No, now I know. Okay, cool.
But yeah, he's a great young producer coming up. Lots of great writers coming up. Zolega Monare.
Oh yeah.
She's written for Your Christmas. She's also got some really tight stories under her sleeve, waiting to bring them out into the world. Some really great DOPs. There's a guy called Pello the Artist. Attention to detail. Like, I love shots that move, personally. I don't know why, but I love shots that move, and he does them in a magical way. Joy Masisi as well, Bandile Mguni, um, so many cool people. There's an editor I'm working with, Natalie for the indies. Obviously Charlie, I mean, he doesn't need my little shout out. He's gonna be fine without me. Believe you me, guys. Nombuselo Dlamini, yeah, there's like a lot of young people. There's a guy called Kumkani who's been sending me his stuff on the side. I've been reading his things. A really great writer as well. There's a lot of like really talented young people. I'm really trying to rally them up to come to the writers' table when it returns. Yeah, there's a lot of really cool, talented people with like cutting edge stories. I think our generation in the industry right now is very much disruptive.
Yeah.
We're kicking out the dirt from under the carpet. We're talking about the things our parents didn't want to talk about. And I think the content, it's revealing itself that way with shows like, Adulting and Youngings. They're shows that are like really frank about their subject matter. They leave nothing under the carpet. They are revealing all. And I think the content that's coming up from our generation of filmmakers is very much like that. We're like really confrontational. Sometimes very uncomfortable, but we're always trying to tell you the truth. So a lot of great people coming up, and yeah, too many names.
Love it. Lastly, can you tell us about the writers' table?
The Writers' Table. The Writers' Table is essentially just a little cohort of writers, usually. I want to, like I said earlier, I want to really branch it out to like bringing actors in to like maybe recite these scenes and bring cinematographers in to capture these performances. But it's essentially just a club where you bring in what you're working on, your little work in progress. Is it a scene? Is it a couple scenes? Is it a first act? We'll read it. We'll talk about it. You'll tell us what you're trying to do. We'll tell you what it feels like. It's not a prescriptive place. No one's the industry giant. We're just there to experience each other's writing. Like I say a lot, we write to be read and we write to be heard. These stories have to come out. And I think a lot of the times, being a young filmmaker, being a young creative, there's a lot of things you work on that just stay in your laptop. You develop a pitch deck, it goes nowhere. You write a script, it sits in your laptop. You do a treatment, no one sees it. And so I wanted a space where we could see like what young people are trying to do so we can help each other. Maybe there's a better way to go about your idea that will capture a funder better, because even though the indies that I want to make are like really intense stories, Element is a beautiful love story, but still like coming from a broken place. My Mother Loves My Father, and That Makes Me Sad is a very like dramatic piece about the dangers of unconditional love when done wrong. And like a little thing I'm working on that's really controversial, but like really cool, called When's the Last Time You Watched Porn, which is just about the issues that we're not talking about that are also happening behind closed doors, I think the Writers' Table is a place where you can feel unafraid to show what you're working on. It's been out of commission for a while because, the unfortunate thing about it is that, it's writers, and writers are always writing. They're in the industry, they're busy. And so it's kind of hard always bringing them together, which is why it's gonna always have to be like maybe once a month. But I'm hoping to bring it back, get writers, actors, cinematographers in the space, make it a really bigger event just so we can share our stories. We sign NDAs, we do. And so whether something that gets recorded there will be shared is, up to the artists in question. But it's just a safe space for writers to share their work. I think there's a lot we don't get to show people. And so at least let's show it to someone who will appreciate it, like other writers.
It's really powerful, Mazi. Very, very powerful. Well, we've reached the tail end of our show. This has been...
Before it ends, I wanted to give you guys a little gift.
Okay. Okay.
So I usually have this for two reasons.
Okay.
The first reason is like I write like on like little A4 pieces of paper. I write like little ideas for stories. I throw them in there and then like I'll piece together a full story maybe later. Or I like write down what's a really great moment from today. Like what's a moment I'm gonna want to remember at the end of the year, and then I open them up at the end of the year and like just see. Like I either have a story or I either have some really big gratitude for the year. And so you guys can decide what you guys put in there.
Oh, wow.
But I just thought I would extend a little gift.
Thank you so much. This is definitely going to be our, mascot, if for the show, and it's definitely going to be a very big part of the show, and we'll find a way to incorporate it within every single episode going forward.
Awesome.
Thank you so much, Mazi, and your story is inspiring, it's intriguing, it's weird, it's wild, intense, sincere, and honest. I really hope and pray that your ambitions come true, and also your plans for the writers' table may come to fruition, and you are able to help the next generation of writers and the current generation who might be going through moments of disbelief, self-doubt, depression, anxiety. I think you are put on this earth to make a mark. You are put on this earth to articulate the deeper thoughts in which we think and are unable to say ourselves. So, I really want to give you your flowers and love and light.
Thank you.
Thank you.